As some of you know, throughout my journey in this fandom, Applejack has always been my favorite character. While her status as the element of honesty is one of the things I've always cherished about her, and something I've discovered to care the most about in my friends over the years, one thing I can look forward to in the majority of her episodes or episodes concerning Applebloom or Big Mac is lessons about familial bonding or even just small moments that show how tight their family is with working on Sweet Apple Acres. Minus one massively flawed example from Season 4, which I hope to never mention again, I've always enjoyed stories behind Applejack and her family because family means so much to me, despite the fact I have no siblings to speak of. Episodes like Pinkie Apple Pie, Apple Family Reunion, Family Appreciation Day, and my favorite episode of all time, Brotherhood Social, have always managed to hit me in the right way and remind me how nuts my own family can be, but that I love them no matter how nuts they are. And having yet another episode that focuses on Applejack and Applebloom bonding over having fun during an important apple harvest during the show's final season was a gift I thoroughly enjoyed from start to finish. When I said from start to finish, I wasn't exaggerating. The interesting thing about the Great Seedlings intro is how right about the time— wait a minute. Going to seed? I've been calling it the Great Seedlings since June? Oh, I swear if this is Mandela screwing me up like with those damn bears. Oh, it's all Google Play's fault. Gee, what can't Google screw up? Anyways, what I found interesting about Going to Seed's intro is its length. Right about the time this episode aired, I was writing the It Isn't the Main Thing About You portion for my Season 7 video, and I was criticizing how unnecessarily long its intro was because it clocked in at over 3 minutes. Yet it also established just one thing over and over again, and even that was nothing new we needed to know about the characters or the story. However, in Going to Seed, its intro is 2 minutes and 40 seconds, which yes is still a tad longer than most episode intros as well, but with major differences. The opening scene with AJ, Big Mac, Applebloom, and Granny Smith sets up so much for the plot that the intro's length winds up not being a problem whatsoever. It establishes that Sweet Apple Acres is about to enter into what AJ calls the confluence.
The confluence. A harvest 100 moons in the making. When every apple comes ripe at the same time.
Ah, still using the damn moons for time measurement. Great. And, to no surprise, AJ is just as eager as I am before my dad and I go fishing. Not only that, but we also see that Big Mac is exhausted from pulling an all-nighter planning out each family member's parts of the orchard to harvest, which becomes a major part of the story later on. We're also informed that Goldie Delicious was tagged by Granny Smith to assist the family with the huge harvest as her horde of cats nearly breaks down the door. Finally, Goldie mentioning the Great Seedling jogs Applebloom's memory and kickstarts her excitement in believing she's now—
or maybe I'm big enough now to finally catch him!
It may have taken longer than usual for a normal episode, but setting up all of these plot points in a nice, fluid pace was masterful. And oh yeah, it's also entertaining. My favorite part of this opening is just how well the writers interject humor in between the family discussing the harvest and the Great Seedling. From Granny Smith saying, "What?" when AJ gushes about the confluence, to all of the jokes about Big Mac's lack of sleep and Goldie's cats waking up Big Mac, the intro wonderfully set the more lighthearted tone of the episode while still prepping us for an episode where AJ's hard work ethic will be tested with her little sister's obsession of catching something AJ believes to just be an old mare's tail. Alright, I suppose now is as good a time as any to address probably the most obvious point about the episode. Yes, I knew pretty much all along, right about at the start of the second morning to be precise, that Big Mac was the one dropping apples everywhere across the orchard in those strange patterns that Goldie referred to as seedling tracks. Now, while normally knowing a key part of the plot like this before its reveal could hinder an episode, I firmly believe that this is a very rare instance where holding knowledge such as this for the majority of the episode doesn't actually hurt it. The only reason I think that knowing Big Mac was the culprit doesn't take anything away is because the entire episode is seen from Applejack's perspective, not Applebloom's. From AJ's point of view, which I'll also get into more in just a minute, this is about her strong, serious work ethic being tested by an awakening of the thrill she experienced as a child from hunting the Great Seedling.
Yesterday you said the Great Seedling was just something to make the harvest fun for youngins.
That was before I thought we could actually catch them.
Plus, Applejack also ultimately grows even closer to her little sister, so there are multiple things going on in the episode to distract us from the obvious. If this was just from Applebloom's perspective and was only about her experience trying to catch the Great Seedling, then knowing it was Big Mac the whole time would have hurt the episode because there wouldn't have been any tension, nor would there have been any supplemental lesson to go along with it. Thus, we would have been bored waiting for Applebloom to discover the truth, and both her and the audience would have been disappointed. In fact, take the SpongeBob episode Hide and Then What Happens, for example. That episode is solely about SpongeBob trying to find Patrick in a game of hide and seek throughout the sea. All of the adventure and tension of the episode winds up being a gigantic waste of time for the audience because the writers stupidly reveal where Patrick was almost right away. So there's no mystery or drama for the audience to endure while SpongeBob looks for him. Had Going to Seed taken this route and was strictly an Applebloom story where Granny Smith, AJ, Big Mac, and Goldie Delicious were relegated to background characters, then knowing that Big Mac was the reason behind the strange apple trails really would have killed the episode because there wouldn't have been anything else to fall back on. Hence why I believe this story being completely from Applejack's perspective negates the obviousness of Big Mac's nighttime harvesting. Now, Applejack's point of view. This was easily one of the strongest bits of the episode. And trust me, it wasn't just because of the lesson that she learned. Her stubbornness is something I love about her character other than her honesty and family values, yet the way Going to Seed expertly and slowly whittled her stubbornness down little by little with each passing day helped to make that moment when her inner child and excitement is awakened completely believable. I love how she starts off laughing about Goldie's recollection of the Great Seedling, to accusing Goldie of stringing Applebloom's hopes along, to her own skepticism being challenged when more apparent evidence is found, to her becoming just as giddy as her sister and formulating plans and traps to help Applebloom was the most perfect progression you can ask for. The most intriguing part about it, however, is that the episode even goes so far as to explain just why Applejack is so gung-ho about hard work and her dedication to the farm in that full hood flashback. I mean, any chance to see AJ as an adorable filly is something I will never pass up, but to use that same opportunity to not just show us how obsessed she used to be, but to flesh out and reveal how she became so serious about working hard was a nice surprise to behold, even if it wasn't something that we desperately needed to see. Now, I'm not dogging on the episode for that, but for AJ, just knowing that she loves working hard and stopping for nothing until the job is done was all we really needed to know about her. This revelation was simply a nice addition, like the icing of a cake. Oh, and to top it off, we got to see Bright Mac and Pear Butter again, as well as baby Applebloom being carried around by Pear Butter. I think I just contracted adorobetus. Ahem. Speaking of the lesson, it's simple, but it's one I found to be a really important one to hear, especially for someone around my age. As we do age up, we sometimes grow out of things we enjoy doing or even watching for various reasons. It could be something as simple as finding so many other things to do that what we were really into sadly fades away. Or it could be that we force ourselves to grow up and purposefully abandon things others find childish so we can appear more mature. And I loved so much that this episode stressed that there's nothing wrong with tapping into your inner child and rekindling that love of something you did when you were younger. I mean, just look at us bronies. I started watching the show when I was 19, and I fell in love with the innocence and positivity that radiated off the stories and characters, despite the fact that I was and still am far above the target demographic. It gave me that nice, warm feeling of escapism and happiness that I hadn't felt in years, and it was a great feeling to return to. Heck, look at all the older parents and even grandparents that love going to Disneyland and Disney World. That's a time they really enjoy turning back the clock on their ages and becoming kids once more, even for just a few days with their own families. In fact, with the Great Seedling itself supposedly being just a story for fillies and colts, it kind of comes off to me as a cross between Santa Claus and a leprechaun. Santa, since he only delivers presents at night, and the Great Seedling appears to only visit orchards at that time because Applebloom leaves out traps to catch him overnight. And because he's supposed to grant a bountiful year-long harvest to whomever catches him, that sounds to me like a leprechaun, since a leprechaun has to fork over his pot of gold to whoever catches him. On top of that, I also loved that the episode illustrated how your attitude towards work doesn't have to be so hard-nosed and serious all the time.
You know what, Sugar Cube? You're never too old to be a filly. There will always be work to do, but having fun together is something you never grow out of.
As I said earlier, it was nice to see a short little backstory explaining how guilt is the reason AJ is so serious about hard work on the farm, but to see those blinders slowly slip off her eyes and start to have fun by bonding with her little sister was just so heartwarming. And the best part is, the episode also showed us glimpses of that near the beginning. Look at this brief moment between AJ and Big Mac. They both try to impress one another with their apple bucking skills, taking a short time out of work to have just a little bit of fun and getting creative with their bucking. Only they go right back to being serious about it when they catch Granny and Goldie working a bit slower than they had anticipated, to which they agree they'll have to rework the schedule.
But it looks like the harvesting's up to us. You're gonna have to redo that schedule.
Yep.
However, the episode also shows Granny and Goldie laughing it up and having a blast just talking to one another, swapping stories and simply enjoying one another's company. You know, having fun while working. And throughout the episode, despite the fact that they're a little slower than both AJ and Big Mac due to them having fun, and probably their old age, they're still getting work done. I just absolutely adore it when an episode can illustrate the lesson like that, but also so subtly. Now that we've gotten the more serious traits of the episode's story out of the way, let's talk about my favorite part, the comedy. I already talked about it briefly when I was analyzing the opening scene, but it didn't just stop there once the theme song hit. Throughout the episode, the writers masterfully inserted humor without sacrificing any parts of the story at all, and in one case, the humor actually helped the writing by foreshadowing just how AJ and Applebloom would catch Big Mac as the Great Seedling.
Big Mac!
Gotcha! Big Mac is the Great Seedling?
But again, it doesn't just stop there. Going to Seed was yet another Season 9 example of just how the animators are savoring the final season by giving the characters strange and hilarious facial expressions. Big Mac definitely took the cake in this episode by having the most and the best hilarious faces, though AJ had a few fantastic contenders as well when she was either upset with Goldie or excited about catching the Great Seedling. And how about the constant background jokes with Goldie's cats messing with Big Mac or popping up and chasing each other at random points in the episode? I'm just honestly so impressed at how the writers and animators managed to add so many comedic touches to an otherwise very sweet sisterly episode without either the story or humor conflicting at all. Seriously, from the first time I watched Going to Seed to the multiple times I watched it again for this review, I kept noticing more and more touches of humor going on either through background jokes or subtle character expressions, and that just made me love the episode even more. Okay, so I'm gonna cut right to the chase here for the wrap up. Going to Seed was an absolutely amazing and fun ride from beginning to end. Minus action and adventure, this episode just about has it all. A great and relatable story with Applejack realizing that it's perfectly okay to entertain the kid inside you from time to time, and how you can make work fun no matter your age. Sweet moments of Applejack and Applebloom's sisterly bond growing stronger, fantastic pacing with Applejack's strong will and work ethic being whittled down slowly but surely, so when her attitude towards the Great Seedling changes, it feels natural, earned, and not rushed at all, a fleshing out of AJ's character that explains her love of hard work, and fantastically subtle comedy sprinkled throughout that offers more jokes the more times you watch the episode. Going to Seed is up there with Frenemies, Sparkle 7, and The Last Crusade as my favorite Season 9 episode, and is honestly one of my favorite AJ episodes ever. Applejack and Applebloom may not have gotten the bountiful harvest they sought after, but they more than earned a green flag rating from me. However, what did you think of the episode? Please let me know down in the comments below, and thank you for watching. I'm MrLeftTurn. I'll see you when I get back from the track.